Hi, my name is Debra R. Richardson of Debra R. Richardson LLC, and I work with you to help you clean up your vendor data, clean up your vendor processes so that you can pay the right vendor. Now, this week's Vendor Master File tip of the week is vendor team. You do not work for and fill in the blank. And so this is going to be a series that I do where I'll post, maybe not weekly, but every now and again, because I get some questions where there are folks that try to tell the vendor team, right, how to do their job. And so I will have this periodically, but you might guess who's going to be the first position or set of folks that I am going to say the vendor team does not work for. And that is the internal employees. And this is like one of my biggest pet peeves because you seem to get like when you are, processing a vendor request, you get all kinds of pushback from internal employees. If you receive something that is not valid, you didn't receive what you asked for. And so all of these things on the screen are all comments that I have had related to setting up vendors and why we couldn't do it with what they just had, what they submitted, or why they need to submit anything. But one of the biggest pet peeves that I had out of all of these and many more that I did not include is when one person said they didn't need to submit, our internal team member said that the vendor didn't need to submit anything else because it was quote unquote just a simple name change. I digress. So you actually, right, and you hopefully you already know this, but you are just as important as the internal team member is, and you are trying to save your company from fraud, compliance fines, and just having bad vendor data. I get where the internal team member is coming from. They may have been working on the contract for quite some time. They may have been, right, and that could have included negotiations and other things that would take more time. And so their assumption is that now they are done with the hard part. They'll just really quickly get the vendor set up and then they can get the purchase order going if it's a PO vendor, and maybe also submit the invoice, right? Because you need a vendor record for all of that. And so they're just trying to check your box and they consider it something easy because they just don't know what we do. And on that note, you do need to make sure that they understand what your processes are. And instead of having those conversations or continue conversations, you really need to reference a vendor policy. And you do need a separate vendor policy that is more than just that one little paragraph in your AP policy, because this really tells your internal team members, that internal right, folks that are requesting the vendor or requesting an update to the vendor, how to do that process, how really to do business with the vendor team, what forms are required, what the timelines are, what happens or what validations are required. And the key part of that, though, is that you have to have your management or leadership sign off on it because that is you and your team member support that you are following the process that has been approved by management. And also, hopefully, that serves as a way or as support so that if the internal team member escalates, and we all heard that word before, right? If they go above your head to try to get you to do something that is against policy, hopefully that vendor policy will alleviate or reduce the potential that leadership will override what's in that policy, right? Because they signed off on it. So this actually was a separate vendor master file tip of the week. And so when this video ends, this video on why you need a separate vendor policy will pop up. So make sure you watch that if you do not currently have a vendor policy. All right, so if you would like more information on how to improve your vendor processes, please go to my website at debrarrichardson.com for free tools and resources to avoid fraud, regulatory fines, and bad vendor data. And if you would like over 149 annual training hours on the vendor process for you and your vendor team, check out the Vendor Process Training Center at training.debrarrichardson.com. So good luck and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified next Tuesday for the next Vendor Master File tip of the week.